Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Espy. I am the Recruitment and Student Services Manager here at CMU Online. Thank you so much for attending today's Student Spotlight webinar. We're really excited. We're going to be covering the Foundations of Data Science online graduate certificate program. Today, I'm joined with George and Jen, who took the program. So we're going to be able to gain their perspectives on what their experience was like, which I'm very excited for personally. And I'm also joined with my teammates, Megan and Joe. Megan helps on the marketing front, and Joe, I'm sure some of you have already been interacting with already, helps us with students that are interested in the program and looking to apply and helping you support you in that journey. So we're excited to get things started. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go through a little bit of the program basics and the schematics of the program, and then we'll move into the good stuff, which is going to be talking more with Jen and George about their actual experiences as students. So without further ado, we can move forward here. Before we dive into the foundations of data science specifically, I did want to take some time to just go over CMU Online as a whole. A lot of you might not be familiar with this, but we are a relatively new unit, and we actually have right now 7 different programs that are graduate certificates all through the online medium, including the foundations of data science, which have been very popular. And we've, over the past few years, have seen this growth happening quite drastically. So we're really excited to see not only these programs flourish, but also more programs to come. So if you're ever curious about these other programs, always feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to talk more about it. But we are here for FDS. So, when we talk about this program in particular and CMU Online as well, what really sets us apart from other certificate programs? It's a combination of multiple things. These 4 pullouts that we had here are the most critical of what we've seen as the big plus signs of what we're bringing to the table when it comes to these certificates. First and foremost, the weekly live online classes. When you look at a lot of certificate programs, you're just simply not going to get any live interaction. That has been imperative for these programs, especially for the Foundations of Data Science certificate. The fact that you're obviously going to be going through self-paced coursework, but also on a weekly basis, you're able to meet live with your fellow classmates and CMU faculty. So if we drop down to the next point, CMU faculty has been a huge draw. So you're not just, going to be taught by some random person for the certificate. You're getting a full-fledged CMU faculty member that's going to be teaching you as you go through the course, and that's been a big plus sign. When you look at the combination of this being online, but you're still getting that level of support and state-of-the-art instruction from CMU faculty, it's a really great and effective combination that we've seen our students take away from their experiences here. The other area, obviously, when we talk to students, especially Joe, when he's talking to prospective students, this is designed for working professionals. So almost everybody in this program is working full time. They're balancing other commitments, whether that be family or, a secondary professional goal. This has been designed to be able to flex with that type of schedule. Does it make the course easy? No, but is it flexible? Yes. And so George and Jen will talk about a little bit more of your experiences and how you balanced this coursework as you went through it as well later in the presentation here. And this is something that sometimes our prospective students miss, is that these are graduate level credit bearing courses. So whenever you do complete these courses, you're going to get an official transcript. And these are fully weight bearing. So, that's something that it's not just a random course that you just pass. These are going to be real grades and real transcripts that you take away, which has been great for as far as like what you're trying to get after this. You're not just going to get a little tag that says you completed the certificate. You're going to get those transcripts along with it. So that's been a huge draw for many of our prospective students. The program overview, I don't want to spend too much time here because I know that we're really going to want to spend a lot of time with Jen and George. But who is this for? For the FDS, we've seen a plethora of folks from different backgrounds. We're seeing working professionals. Obviously, we're looking for someone that has at least a bachelor's level degree from an accredited college or university. But we're seeing a plethora of industry professionals from all walks of life. The main goal that we're seeing from everybody, though, that is looking to join this program is they know that there's a lot of data out there that they can be leveraging to yield more data-centric decisions to be made in their organizations, and they want the key to be able to unlock that data. And so that's been the commonality that we've seen with all of our students. And then we have also seen a lot of managers, folks that are in leadership roles that are just wanting to get a little bit more data centric in what their decision making is going to be with their day-to-day workflows. So that's typically who we're seeing for this particular program. Some of the things that you're going to be learning is just asking the right questions when it comes to analyzing data and solving real world problems. I think it always starts there is how can I ask the right questions before I start to dive in? Some other areas, data analysis, fundamental techniques of probability, structuring basic data pipelines. And the big draw too is data visualization. Obviously, we're going to teach you not only how do you collect the right data, but how do you turn it into a visual that's going to be digested and inherited amongst your peers and work. So that's been a huge draw of what you're going to be learning in this program and what students are taking away. We did want to break down the actual coursework. We think this is extremely important so you can see exactly what you're going to be taking. And the Foundations of Data Science certificate is a bit unique where we like to create smaller chunks of courses that you're going to be taking throughout your experience here. So when we look at the 5 total courses, 4 of them are going to be 6 units, 7 weeks only for each of these courses. So we can see gaining insights through stat modeling, probability and statistics, telling impactful stories with data visualization, and finishing up with intro to data science and computing workflows. So as opposed to being full semester length courses, these are chunked into 7-week courses, which are more bite-sized, and we're able to pack more in for these courses. And I did mention there's 5 courses total, and that's going to be in the next slide. The 5th and final course is actually a capstone project. This is very unique. Again, going back to this being a certificate, very rare that you're going to be seeing a capstone project in a certificate program. But this has been a huge draw for many of our students as well, is that you're obviously gaining all of this knowledge through those first 4 courses, but the capstone is really where you're able to bring everything together and present it in front of your peers and the faculty at the very end of the program. We're going to talk a little bit more about this later in the webinar between Jen and George, your experiences with the capstone. But the feedback that we've gotten from our students is that it was a really great way for them to apply what they've learned throughout the program to real world data, which is, you want to make sure that you can do that fluently before finishing the program. So it's a great capper for sure for the program. All right, let's get into introductions. I just talked for a long time and we haven't really introduced our 2 student spotlights. So I want everyone to meet Jen. Jen, would love for you to introduce yourself, tell us what really brought you to this certificate, and maybe just a brief synopsis on what your experience was like.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. So a little bit about me. I come from a quote unquote untraditional background. I have a master's in writing and publishing from Emerson, but I also have a background in psychology and English. And my day-to-day work is as UX content strategy for AI-powered platforms at Microsoft. So it's a unique opportunity for me to really go about focusing on designing terminology systems, semantic layers for large language models. And yeah, so much of this program very much is woven into my day-to-day role. And that's something I very much got out of the program. The fact that it really equipped me with a sense of confidence and fluency in terms of not only the topics themselves, but really how to engage with stakeholders, how to engage with engineers and PMs on the right methods of data visualization, methodology, and semantic and emergent technologies. So that's my quick spiel.
Yeah, thank you. That was awesome. I'm really glad to have you here today. And we'll be going through some more in-depth questions. So we're really excited to gain your perspective, Jen. Thanks for being here. All right, next slide. Now we have George. George, thanks for joining us. Same thing. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself, what brought you to the program? That'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Eric, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Um, I was always on the data side. It was always something that I found as in my career as a vocation and avocation as well. So well, I started off in computer science and joined the corporate America. I augmented it with, other certificates that you see there and other advanced degrees. I used CMU to level up in data science because I've never known anybody who wanted less data and less insights. Um, and when I was looking at ways to do that, I mean, there are other avenues, right? LinkedIn, Coursera, but the reason why I gravitated towards CMU is because of the birthplace of data science. There was three universities, Stanford, MIT, and Carnegie Mellon. So I honed in on, well, why don't I go where there has been, heritage and tradition? And that's what brought me to CMU. And if I had to do it all over again, I would sign up again. The experience was fantastic, from administration to faculty to my peer groups and people that I met. It was just we had a great cohort. I'm sure the follow-on cohorts are going to be fantastic as well. But it was an all-around a very nice way to level up in data science.
That's great. Thanks, George. Really excited to have you here as well. And yeah, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into both of your experiences. And, the point of everyone being here today is to continue to gain your perspective of your overall experience here. So without further ado, we'll jump into the first question. George, you can kick us off if you'd like. Um, how did the program meet or differ from your expectations? I think this is always a great question to start off with.
Yeah, well, I mentioned why I targeted CMU, and to be honest, I had no expectations, so I had none to meet or to differ on. It was more about learning, learning, learning. It did give me a strong balance in terms of expectations. It gave me a strong balance of technical rigor and application rigor as well. So we were learning the nuts and bolts of data science as well as programming and visualization. And then finally, of course, storytelling, because a lot of times you're going to be presenting, post a certificate to, non-data science people, laymen or senior managers, and that data storytelling um, was invaluable as well. So those are the things that I got out of it. It gave me, finally, confidence both on the analytics side and then, of course, the communication of insights.
Excellent. That's great. Actually, let's go back to the that slide. And Jen, I would like to get your perspective on the same question. So what about you? What was where did the program meet or differ your expectations?
Yeah, 100%. I want to echo what George has just said in terms of Carnegie Mellon just having that prestige and very much the coursework aligned to that. So I expected a strong technical foundation, but I will say I was very much surprised by how applicable the coursework was to real world UX and AI design problems that I encounter on a daily basis. So this program was unique in the sense that I could still do my job, you know, daily basis, but I could do Carnegie Mellon at night. So it really helped me bridge my academic background in psychology and computer science with some of my current work on semantic layers and large language models. That's not something I've seen in other programs, having that both adaptability, but also that extremely strong technical fluency.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. That's something I never really thought about, is that bridge that's built during that process, which is really that's interesting to see. And I agree with you. It's rare to see that at the certificate level for sure. All right, let's go to the next question. Um, Jen, let's start with you. We'll kind of like alternate that way. What was your experience like with the actual instructors and also the course materials? I think we get this question a lot, is what is that experience actually like? Because again, certificates are all over the place. They're really different, each one you get. So what was your experience like there?
Yeah, for sure. So it's also been quite a while since I've gone back to school, and so again, kind of not only doing it like remotely, but also doing it online. Um, some of my experience, I thought, the instructors were incredibly responsive. They brought industry relevance into the classroom. So many of the folks not only were ad hoc professors, but they also had a data solidified role as their day job. And so I really appreciated the mix of like a coding assignments and conceptual discussions. In fact, so many of the courses I've taken recently, I've previously taken as part of the certificate related to like um, GitHub or learning R. I've gone on to teach those same conceptual topics to other organizations. So even like in the past 2 weeks, I've held a 40 plus intro session to data visualization in GitHub for PyLadies Boston, which is the Boston chapter of Python language programming. So it was a great win for me, but I think the ripple effect was there, the
Yeah.
fact that I'm gaining these insights, but now I feel confident to share these insights with others.
Right. To be able to teach that to others is huge. It's a big step. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's great. George, what about you?
Um, for the instructors, my experience was that they are certainly invested in the success of all the students. They encourage, your exploration, and they don't want you to fail. But it is, I will say, the dense sometimes. Well, maybe for me, the material was dense, and I spent a lot
It
of
was
time
very
to go.
dense.
It was
It was not you. It was, yeah, it was very technical. Like you have to rise to the occasion.
right, and there were two classes, probably Jen, you know which
Yeah, I
two
probably know the ones you're
classes.
talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would come downstairs and after class and talk to my family like, what the hell am I doing? It was
I feel like, yes,
uh,
there were
uh,
definitely weeks like that when I'm like, I'm gonna get through this, but it's gonna hurt a little bit, but it will be rewarding afterwards. I just have to
yeah,
keep pushing through on the challenge. I have to accept
right.
it as a
And
challenge.
it did all come together. And
Yes,
so the materials, so the professors were as they are employees of CMU. They are not contractors. They are, they have tenure. They're part of the college. The materials in each one of the classes. I don't know if this was by design or a coincidence, but the materials they would always say, "Oh, well, this is from my brick and mortar class." So that it's not a data science, light, if you will. All the material was well structured. We used Canvas and Zoom. I never felt like I was distant from learning or distant from my peer group. The data sets that we were using each week and in each class were pertinent to what we were learning, which was great. The one thing that I've thought was I encouraged my peer group to do is very few people would put on their videos. So I don't know why, but in corporate America, we put on the video all the time. So
right.
wherever you decide to go, if it's CMU or other, it's just a great way to connect, even though, mile wise and distance wise. So. But overall, I would say from my experience from the courses and the instructors, it was just like I was either getting um, uh, an undergrad class, and I'm not talking about a 101 class, probably more of a 400 class
Yes.
than anything, and then some graduate exposure material as well.
I think that's such a fair assessment, George. Um, my experience was this was not like a light coursework by any means. I couldn't imagine taking two courses at one time. It would not be feasible.
Right.
Right.
It would not.
Right.
Um,
I appreciate both your perspectives on that because we get almost two sides of the coin of folks that apply for this program and they have some sort of inkling of experience of what to expect from CMU. And then on the other side, you might not know what you're kind of getting into when it comes to the coursework. And I think, it is going to be tough. It's not easy. Not everyone can do this. But again, it's nice to hear that both of you felt like you were supported by the instructors, which I think again is just such a rarity at the certificate level. I myself have taken certificates and rarely even got an email back from any of the, the instructors that I had. So it's nice to know, between that responsiveness, also the live sessions, it's hard, but it's doable, and you did it. And I'm sure you both, cherish the experience you had with, even with the tough times of getting through some of that coursework. All right. Oh, this might be one of our most common questions as well is, you're going through this year-long stint of coursework. Um, even during the program and after, have you been able to apply anything that you've learned in your current role? And if so, how? And George, we can start with you. This is always a really great question we get from prospective students.
Um, so my current role, I was with corporate America for 37 years. I'll let you do the math. And then, like I said, I wanted to level up, so I took a step back from corporate America and focused on data science, and I did other things outside of the certificate course. And then uh, about 3 or 4 months ago, I got together with a couple of my friends, and now we're going to go independent because we think there's a market out there for data science and where we can make turn our vocation into our advocation. I mentioned that earlier. Um, and I think everything is applicable. We are close to landing our first client. We think we have line of sight to doing that in 2025. My wife would be very happy when that happens, but I think you could apply that material at any age and in any career and any vocation. I learned what Jen does just today, and she's applying it in a UX environment, which is fantastic. And I don't know of anybody who wanted who didn't want more insights into what they do. So that's how I'm applying it
That's
in steps
great.
forward.
Congratulations. Hopefully that new partner comes in this year, and yeah, your wife will be happy then. That's great.
Right.
Jen, what about you?
Yeah. So again, echoing a lot of what George was saying, I very much have been able to apply what I've learned in the program directly, like one-to-one to my role. So when I started the Foundations of Data Science program at CMU, I was already working in AI design, but what I was looking to do was really go about sharpening my technical edge. And so I did that, and I can expand on it when we talk more about the capstone, is um, I through CMU, I was able to really apply data science to real world behavior. And that's something that I now do on a daily basis in my role at Microsoft. Um, I learned how to build regression models to explore not only, elements within my capstone, but be able to read dashboards differently in some of my day-to-day roles. And how does that impact some of those UX-backed scientific decisions that I'll make um, when I'm applying designs? Since completing the program, I've also taken on more strategic AI design work. I've gone about contributing to internal large language model training efforts. I've also helped with the Massachusetts AI Future Workforce Initiative. And then in the past 6 months, I've probably been a part of 4 different hackathons that, again, this data visualization and data science program has really allowed me to flip the coin and approach my thinking in a far more technical lens. So it's this capstone very much was an opportunity for me to level up. And that's not purely from a technical fluency, but that's leveling up in terms of leadership. It gave me the tools to connect data science with inclusive design, and then, like I had mentioned earlier, to mentor others navigating that same intersection.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. It just seems like from one source, a lot of different tributaries of opportunity spawn for you. That's excellent to hear. All right, we'll keep moving forward. Um, Jen, if you want to kick us off, this is always a good question. What do you wish you would have known before starting the program?
Yeah, I think if I had gone to one of these sessions ahead of time, I would have very much benefited. I very much would have taken the advice that George has already given, just in terms of allocating the amount of time needed ahead. So you 100% need to allocate like 8 to 10 hours a week on this. Some courses even more. And I will say, you for sure are doing all the lessons and the coursework, but I wish I had almost had like a boot camp before
Mm.
the program, just so I can brush up some of my just so I can brush up some of my coding, and just in terms of if I knew ahead of time what programs that I should have fluency in, or what programs I should at the very minimum have novice to intermediate proficiency in, I think that would have really helped me. That being said, I'm the kind of person where if I'm thrown into the ocean, I'm just going to keep kicking and swimming, and that's how I treated this program. It's uh, that's also how the kind of people that I see going into the program and succeeding. They're the people that want to, the people that want to like really take a big bite out of life and just get the most out of it.
That's great. Yeah, I think like you mentioned, everyone finishing this program, it's the persistence and effort that'll get you through, or the strongest steel is made in the hottest fires. So thanks for your perspective on that, Jen. George, what about you?
Um, that is a great question. There's probably a few things that come to my mind. The first one is I wish I would have started interacting with my peer group a little bit sooner. We did start gelling like in, at the end of class two, but it went, it goes by so fast. And just, I think it just started off with an email saying, "Hey, did you finish your program, or how do you feel about the exam you took, or whatever?" And then, we would, when we would jump on, Zooms, we were catching up for the, through the week, for the class, and then we would focus on obviously the key learnings. But, I think I underestimated the chemistry that you could build through the Zoom class and your peer group going through the same experience. So, you're certainly not alone. And even after graduation, I still taught or whatever, the award of the certificate or whatever however it's referred, I'm getting phone calls or text messages, and same to my, the people in my cohort. So, that was one thing. The other thing that it was the kind of the schedule, and as Jen also said, that the material is very dense, but it is I would say 400 level course material that you're getting in 7 weeks. And so the cadence I got on was, if my class was on Wednesday, and it took me probably almost all the way through the first class, would be as if my class was on Wednesday, I would do the homework on Thursday and Friday. If there was a quiz or anything else, that would be my Saturday. So I would get, wrap up the post lecture. Sunday was my day off. And then on Monday and Tuesday was the pre-read that I did for the next class on Wednesday. So I did this, kind of cadence, and it time boxed what I needed to deliver on. So that worked out. That helped save me. Um, and then there is one of the professors hosts a annual data science workshop in April. I plan to go and make that trip. And I think that would be a lot of fun, and a way to continue learning and making sure that I maintain relationships and stuff like that. So those, I would say, would be the three things that there. The third one being, stay connected with whatever program you decide, if it's not CMU or other. But there are opportunities for students to stay connected to the university post capstone.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, it's just like you, a lot of our graduates, they really cherish the ability and the opportunity to build camaraderie with their fellow classmates. And for me personally, that's huge. Being able to, know that you're not a lone wolf and you're in the trenches with other fellow soldiers, and that goes a long way. of being able to have not that pigeonhole of just your instructor to reach out to, but also you have your peers to go and reach out to if you need support. So I think that's huge. Um, and we did I did want to cover a question that we got in the chat that's relative to this is the self-paced assignments. Like, what were some examples of those?
So the Canvas was the online portal that we used. There were readings that you did on your own as pre-work and some as post-work, but that self-paced, and then there were quizzes. When I understand quizzes, but there was checkpoints, if you will, for to test your knowledge type questions. And then you could always kind of go back and if you got something incorrect, or you could always ask, go to office hours for the professor or the TA and say, I really don't understand this. And they will see, how you responded. And then based on your responses, they could hone in on, answering questions that you have and stuff like that.
Yeah, so very similar experience to George. All of this is done remotely. It's all done online. So um, the opportunity to interact with other students in the classroom, we would have like our mini groups where we'd have breakout sessions, and then having those breakout sessions is just like in my mind another opportunity to go about learning. Like you can learn through the coursework, you can learn from the professor, you can learn again one-on-one through office hours. But again, learning from your peers is just another lens to just go about fully fleshing out your understanding of this topics.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, if you all attending have more questions, just keep popping them into the chat, and we're gonna reserve some time at the end here to get to all your questions. So we'll make sure we cover that. All right. This is the last question. So, how did you decide on your capstone project? I think it would be, I know both of you went through this process, but I think it'd be nice for us to hear like what did you actually do for the capstone project and really what stood out to you during that experience when you did your capstones. And George, let's start with you again.
Yeah. So in this case, I wish I was at corporate America during my capstone because I probably would have pulled in a work example or at least from a peer group or a key work partner or somebody that and applied that. Um, I was kind of surprised that in my cohort, nobody really did that. I'm like, well, why aren't you doing? Well, there were data sets that we were given, but everybody chose from the 6 or 8 that we were given. So I chose, and they were all diverse. I chose one with the WNBA, the Women's National Basketball Association, and that was the only sports one. So that that data set was of interest. And with the capstone project, it, we had pseudocode or directions, for in the previous courses. And I'll quote one of our professors, but he would always say, "Well, I'm going to start removing some of the scaffolding." And I think Jen, you might have. You probably know who I'm talking about. But at first, okay, write this, do this analysis or algorithm or coding or whatever. And then, throughout the course, it would be less and less what was provided. When we got to the capstone, you had a blank sheet of paper and you had to, start from scratch and all those, I would say, good behaviors that you try to emulate throughout the program. You try to bring in, good documentation, that kind of stuff. As a When I was younger in my career, I was a poor for a documenter. I didn't comment a lot. Now I comment quite a bit. But that's, the capstone did pull from each course. Everybody pulled something. Different things became because of their data sets. But and then it was fantastic to see even two people use the same data set, but their analytics were orthogonal to their output. So it was exciting to see like how somebody else's approaches, to, problem solve and stuff like that. So that's how I selected it, was about sports, and then it was a blank sheet of paper you had to start with. So
Sounds like a great challenge, though.
yeah.
Obviously it's great to get help, but when you have that moment where you're like, all right, now let's test my metal a little bit. I think it's a great share, George. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was good before you're let out into the wild, right? Can you survive?
Right, right. Jen, what about you? How's your capstone?
Yeah. So I also chose one that was previously curated for the class. Mine was the Capital Bike Share System Analysis, and this was a pretty gnarly, huge data set. We were talking about 18,000 um, records, and then after I went about cleaning it, I got it closer to like 14,000. But in terms of features, there are about 25 different features, 11 engineered variables, and this particular this particular data set, my project was aimed to go about uncovering patterns in the bike rental behavior and build predictive models to go about supporting sustainable urban mobility and real-time city monitoring. So ultimately, I looked at data from 2011, 2012, based in Washington, D.C., and I went about start doing exploratory data analysis, feature engineering, and predictive modeling to get a sense for what are these trends, what are these usage patterns that I can gain from the bike rentals. What does that look like in terms of having the bike rental data really serve as a proxy for human movement? So how can I even analyze where people are renting their bikes, and what can that signal in terms of urban behavior? What can that signal in terms of sustainability? And again, thinking through like the UX lens, this really allowed me to highlight some of the valuable UX thinking with data science and design systems, and how that ultimately all bubbles up and funnels up to real world conditions. So it again was looking at data that was very much real life data, but applying it to my life, and then taking those insights and projecting it with regression models. And um, it was very rewarding. Was it easy? No, it was not easy. But that's the point. The point is for it to be something challenging and rewarding, and I don't know. I'm of the belief of I very much learn something if I try hard. And it's okay if I fail a little bit, but if I just keep trying harder and harder, I I know I'll get it, and I will in fact remember it. And that's what's crucial for me. It's fine if I fail a little bit, but I still want to succeed at the end.
Right. Yeah. Still looking towards the light at the end of the tunnel the whole way. And,
Mhm.
attitude and effort will get you there. So that's excellent. Thanks for sharing that. All right. We're right on time here. We're going to be going into questions. And before we do that, I know I mentioned this before. Some of you may have been working with Joe already. But if you do have questions, want to talk about the program in more depth, if you want to talk about the application process, all the timelines that come with that, Joe is going to be your go-to. So Joe's here today. This is our email if you ever want to reach out to us via email. Otherwise, we'll be reaching out to all of you after this session, just to make sure we make that connection if you don't already have that connection with Joe. He's great. Um, all right. Excellent. Well, let's start with some Q&A. I know that we got a question when we were presenting, just regarding, I know both of you, Jen and George, you talked about preparation with coding. That's something that you wish you had a better base layer with. What programming specifically do you wish you would have had more bolstering of before starting when we talk about Python or R, both? Any details there in specifics?
Yeah, if in terms of a programming language, all of our work was done in R and R Studio. So the value of our studio, and the last time I programmed was probably in the first 3 or 4 years of my career, and haven't really programmed since. Um, but that didn't stop me from still learning. So we programmed in R. There, the help functions in R were pretty good. There was also augmented by you could go to office hours supported by TAs. You can go to office hours supported by professors. Also in Canvas, there was a way to, post questions. And usually, like somebody would write, well, this is my code and it's not working, or I'm getting this error message or whatever. And within 24 hours, and everybody would see, the comments. And so all the professors would invite other students to comment, uh, and to Jen's point, if you could teach somebody, well, then that's part of the learning too. So, I would try to answer the question the best I can because I was teaching and also learning. But those were, and then the professor when 24 hours would answer as well. And then they would say, is your code working? Because there's nothing more aggravating than if you're working on a Friday night on a piece of code and you get to an error message and you can't figure it out, and now it's the weekend. But everybody, if Jen was in my class, I'm sure she would be on just like the same hours that I was, and professors
Yes,
would
this
be,
sounds all too familiar.
yeah, and the professors knew people were doing, the assignments over the weekend, and they would, respond. And so there were a lot of those things, but R is the programming language.
Gotcha. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Um, we had like a preloaded question that I thought was unique from one of our participants before the session. Is there anything that just absolutely blew you away that about data when you started this program or while you were taking it? Like you thought you knew you thought you had a good grasp on data and data analysis, but something that you learned was like, whoa, like this is this is just something I never even expected. I think that's an interesting question for sure. Anything that comes to mind?
I could go and then invite Jen to go. And my career was based on data, and this was before big data. We had little data,
Hmm.
and we, but the different techniques on how to impute missing data, uh, learned those techniques and which ones would be of more valuable depending on the data set and the type of data we were working with. So when you have missing data and you have to extrapolate, I'll use this um, example. We get the census every 10 years, and not everybody fills out the census, but they take those responses and then they will impute what the whole population is. So imputing data is, I think, key, and different techniques and how to do that um, was probably one of my takeaways. I'll pass the virtual podium over to Jen.
All right, I got it. Thank you. All right. So I think something that blew me away from the program itself was um, something I learned in particular from my capstone model project was how misleading a statistically significant model can be if you don't look deeper. And I think this can be true about data in general. Just if you're the person who has the raw data, you have the most power in the room. And if you are the same person who has the raw data in the room and you're able to extrapolate it, you're in turn able to then, really craft the story. What is the data telling you? Are my models just statistically pretty, or are they actually useful? How can I go about combining UX thinking with data science to make insights more actionable? I think having that strong understanding of statistics, having that strong understanding of, for instance, really being able to build a linear regression model. And from there, being able to predict, for instance, bike rental volume, I was able to, of course, be able to understand, all right, this is a highly significant p-value, which feels like a win at first, but based on what I'm learning from the coursework, that's not the whole story. I at first glance, you may see that, this data is highly significant. But if you then, for instance, look at the R-squared value, you immediately see that actually it's only maybe explaining 23% of the picture. And again, if you're that person who has that raw data, if you're that person that's able to read the data, um, you know the truth. I would say in many ways, having that deep appreciation for the data, being able to tell the stories based off of it, um, you're the person in possession of the utmost truth. You craft the stories, you have the power.
Right. Yeah, that's super powerful. Coming from my experience with prob and stat, I've been trying to just find, is it significant or not? And like that works to a degree, like you said, Jen. Like this is going to get you to look further than that to actually legitimize that significance, which I think is huge. Like I just think that that's a untapped skill in most of the professional world, which is really exciting to hear that you're tackling that in the program. Thanks for sharing that. That was great. Um, Megan, what we can do is close this share and we can get us all back in the big screens. That way it might be easier for folks to put their questions in the chat box. And if you all want to give us some more questions, we're happy to answer. We have 10 minutes, so a lot of time to answer questions. So I feel free to open the floor. Um, Joe, anything that you want to add?
Nothing to add, but really, I appreciate the students' perspectives. It's always great to hear, you prospective students in general hear from me quite a bit. I'm able to share, my knowledge of the program, but it's always great to hear the insights of the students who are actually in the program. So George and Jen, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. It's been great supporting you throughout your journey so far, but it's also really good for me personally to hear just how well you're doing, how you're enjoying the program. And I hope the students here can really see just how exciting this has been for you.
It looks like we have a question just regarding assignments again, like how much time is spent typically on assignments, and then when are they typically due?
How often are they due? They're due once a week. And I think that's a good cadence because you don't want something like, oh, I could do it next week. And then you got double the work next week. So do stick with the curriculum and the syllabus that is provided. That will help. And, staying on with, I would do, some weeks it was like 10 hours a week or 15 hours a week, but there were some material that I don't remember. And I would do maybe 8 to 10 hours of pre-work, and then 8 to 10 hours of post-work. And there was only one class that gave quizzes that I recall. Jen, is that right? I think it was just Professor Friedman's, or was it two? I can't remember.
I had Professor Friedman for two different courses.
Yeah,
So yes, he did give quizzes.
on both courses. I can't remember. There was
I
those are my
believe so. Yeah, because I had him for my first course in data visualization. And I very much love that he was my first interaction with CMU. He was just very, uh, even though I wasn't there in person, I felt like I could reach out at any point. He made himself very available. I did go to office hours. And in general, professors are understanding of the fact that typically folks do have a daytime job. And I think from my standpoint, having the courses, 7 weeks long is tight and hard. However, from like a time management standpoint, it's much easier to negotiate that timing in terms of, all right, I'm going to time box, allocate like 10 to 15 hours doing this a week, which is a big investment. However, after those 7 weeks, I can go back and actually, reflect on what I've done, but go back into my normal daily rhythm, which I think is helpful. Being able to hit pause again in like that program was very helpful for me.
Just like Jen and George shared, we know you're busy. We know you got a lot going on. That's exactly why we're here. We're going to make sure that we put a plan in place, get your application in, and if you're planning to, if you get admitted and want to enroll, we're going to make sure we support you all the way through to get you ready for classes. So that is our commitment to you. And we like to mirror that while you're a student here with the support that you're going to get through instruction as well. So that's our goal here. We want it to be an exciting time. We don't want it to be a stressful time. This should, this is the one up that a lot of you are looking for, and we want to be there to support you through this.